Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I want to talk to you about top 5 sleeper cards in Splinterlands. I'm going to use SplinterCoach data to see which cards I've got that are winning, and then I want to cross-reference that with peak monsters and see which of these are really inexpensive, and then talk about certain key breakpoints for each of these cards. You need to have 50, 60, 100 BCX of this card to make it do what I know does, what succeeds with this card. And so I think we're going to have a conversation around 5 cards that are really inexpensive. They're super powerful and people for some reason are sleeping on it. That's the conversation today. Before we get into it, splintercoach.com sponsor the video. SplinterCoach is a website that will track your personalized battle history in Splinterlands. For $5 a month, you can know how you win, when you win, why you lose, when you lose. And that information is going to be both fun to look at and powerful as a useful tool to help you get better and therefore extract better reward. And I heard somebody say $5 is too much for a resource if I'm not going to earn $5 playing Splinterlands. And I think that's not the right way to look at it, because one, you're actually getting entertainment out of this data analysis. And then two, the rewards you're receiving when you play Splinterlands are actually bigger than you think. It's just that the US dollar price point today in 2023 isn't where you want it. This game is built in such a way that when you accumulate assets, you're going to receive rewards that are increasing in price over a long enough time horizon. If you believe that, accumulation of these assets today is actually deeply meaningful because they're inexpensive now, but their value, their intrinsic value is high. Price is not the same as value. So check out splintercoach.com. And I think you're going to enjoy it. Have an amazing day. God bless. And sleepers are these idea within a pool, within your team, that people are sleeping on. They're not taking seriously. There are certain cards out there in Splinterlands that are definitely being slept on. And I think SplinterCoach can help us understand it. I'm going to look at some of the data. It's going to help. We're going to need to pop between peak monsters for pricing and SplinterCoach for data. But I think there's going to be some sleepers that I think we can take away from. And I want to hear your thoughts too. If you have cards you think no one plays, or why is the price so low? It's really powerful, and it feels like no one gets that. I'd love to see those comments in the chat. But I'm going to look at the data from SplinterCoach, and I'm going to pop over to peak monster, and I want to try and maybe find 5 sleeper cards. I bet there are. I haven't looked at this at all, so I'm not coming prepared with notes to share with you, but I think just looking at the data and finding the cards, we'll be able to make some comments. Okay, so splintercoach.com, guys. And like the guy was saying earlier in the comment, $5, it might seem like you're not getting a lot because you say to yourself, I don't even make $5 a month with Splinterlands. Well, SplinterCoach is not just an opportunity to maximize the rewards that you're earning. Yes, it is that. But for $5, you're actually going to get some entertainment. As we're about to see, I'm going to find entertainment in spending time in SplinterCoach looking at the cards that are the data. The data is information that can help me glean new things about this game and possible investments within it. That's awesome. That's fun. That's what I want to do. I'm going to look for 5 sleeper cards using data from SplinterCoach. I'm going to turn off my camera so I actually can show you what I'm seeing. Share screen, no video. Okay, bear with me for a second. You guys can still hear me. I know you can't see. Go like this. Gotta go like this. Where is it? What is it? I did this the other day and it worked. Boom, boom. Oh, I know what's happening. I'll fix it right here. Boom, boom. And now it's working, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So you can see my Splinterlands screen. And here we go. Now we got a full screen and we're looking at the same data. So we got splintercoach.com open. And I recently did a video talking about the 3 best summoners that are in the game. And I'm talking win rate. I talked about value. I think that was a really helpful video. A lot of people seem to think so. I talked about the 3 best monsters, and I showed again win rates, and even talked about prices and talked about how might be too expensive. So what about this solution? I think that was really helpful. Today I want to talk about the best sleepers, 5 sleepers. And I don't know if it's summoners. I don't know if it's monsters. It's going to come out of a place of data that helps us look at, we're going to need to see how many times it's getting played, what's the win rate look like, and we're going to ultimately then have to compare that with the price points that are in the marketplace. I think what we might want to do is recognize from peak monsters what are some of the more inexpensive cards. And I think Reward cards are definitely part of that. I think they're probably among the lowest cards available, price point wise. So which of these cards is really, you know, succeeding? Let's start with summoners. Well, there won't be summoner reward cards. Let's start with reward monsters. And I can't actually subdivide or filter from just rewards, but I can like look at them and be like, okay, there we go. I'm quickly looking at win rates. I'm looking at the artwork, and I'm trying to just mentally remind myself like which ones are which. From a high win rate, I want to focus on cards over a 500% win rate. So more than half, they win either half or more than their battles. Goblin Psychic has got to be I'm putting a note on that one. I'm not saying it's for sure a sleeper, but it might be. We'll look at the price later. I'm taking notes as I do this. It's not a reward card, but it could be. Chaos Legion could be interesting too, because there are enough of them. Bandit is probably in the consideration, but the win rate's a little low. But I think the win rate's actually a little low for me because of some of my choices early on. I dug a bit of a hole with the blue team, and Splintercoach was helpful in helping me recognize that, and we've corrected. But that data might be impaired because of that. Pelacor Bandit. I'm gonna put it in the conversation. What else? Uraeus, Truth Speaker, maybe. That's an untamed card. Let's see. 566. Okay, Chaos Agent. Here we go. For 1 mana too, hey? For 1 mana, it's got the 566 win rate. It's played in quite a few games. The low mana makes it definitely versatile. It's a neutral card, so it's even more playable than perhaps some other cards. Shadowy Presence is not going to be a steal or quote unquote sleeper. Maybe you might call it a sleeper. This is a card we did talk about in the previous video. I might, because that win rate is so substantive and it is played quite often, and it is that 1 mana, but it is a wild card, so then there's that question mark too. Look at this. I'm surprised the Creeping Ooze like loses as often as it does. Only 19 wins and 30 losses in 49 games. Mycelic Slip Spawn. That's a great win rate. I feel like this is not going to be a cheap card, but I might be wrong. I don't think anyone's sleeping on the Mycelic Slip Spawn as part of my doubt in writing that down right now, but I'm going to look at it. Look at this Spirit Miner. This is a card that's old, and the price has been dropping. It is such a powerful card at level 3 or 4. It has a swiftness, it has blind. This combination, swiftness and blind, means that every one of your monsters has a 25% chance to evade the attack that they're dodging. Because there's 10% increased speed from the swiftness. 1 speed increase from the swiftness, which means a 10% increased chance of dodging by itself. And then the blind is a 15% blanket chance to avoid. So that's a 25% chance increase to your ability to evade. The Spirit Miner, obviously very successful. 24 and 19 is a strong record. Now it is a smaller, kind of more niche card, and it's not exactly cheap, and it is old, but man, it is so good. And I happen to know that, like, I have a buddy who just bought one, and it's pretty cheap now for a level 3. This is a great old card, and it partners so well with some of the amazing new cards. Coriel or whatever, Coral Lurker, already so evasive that blind and swiftness help amazingly. Venari, I bet you Crystal Smith is a deal. Look at that, Venari, Crystal Smith, and these cards might end up being cards that you aren't even like. It's not exactly that you don't necessarily have them. It's not like sleeper means you've never heard of these cards. Of course you have. You know every card in the game. The question is, 1, do you have a max copy for your level? If not, maybe these cards are serious contenders, and that should be a place that you're aiming at to develop. Or 2, it could be the conversation might be, look, I'm seeing something significant and special in its ability to win most of its games, and yet it's so inexpensive. How about maybe it's something I want to acquire more of just from an investments perspective. So that's the opportunity that's wrapped up in the data analysis that comes out of a tool like this creates fun for me, because it's a general manager experience. I've said that before, and I think it's an apt description of what this is, what Splinterlands is. There's that team creation, general manager experience. Which monsters are you hiring and firing? And then there's the coach experience. Which monsters are you putting on the field in this given game with this specific context? There's two different vibes, and both of them are so integral to what Splinterlands is and the joy that comes out of it. And this tool is unlocking more of, well, really, truthfully, it's empowering both of those dimensions. But right now, I'm using it from the perspective of the GM, trying to recognize who's succeeding, who's maybe being ignored, and then from the price point, really, they're being ignored. Chaos Dragon is not being ignored. He's played quite a bit, but look at that, good win rate. Such a strong card. The question is, like, when does the 14 mana fit? But when it fits, it obviously works. When you've got the 99 mana, this is a card you like almost have to have. I bet if I looked at the data, you'd see that it's like all those big mana matches, that card's being thrown in there. Undead Priest, look at that win rate, 683. And this is, you know what, Undead Priest, it might be a case where some of this ends up landing on that one play, which I talk about, the redemption cheese. That's what I'll call it. The redemption cheese, playing 1 or 2 or 3 weekends on the Death Splinter with low mana match in that 12, 13 mana, you win. It's such a good play. Thaddeus Brood, Undead Priest, Dr. Blight, and then you put the slime ball in the first position with the redemption. He dies once, and he kills 2 or 3 people because of the nature of that redemption and all the weekends you brought with you. So Undead Priest might actually be one of the sleepers here. Look at this surprising data. This is such a great card, Ruler of the Seas, but not winning very often. Corrupted Pegasus, great card, not probably too expensive to be a sleeper. Naga Assassin, absolutely crushing it with that 27 and 13 record, and yet I know it's really cheap. You probably already have it, but again, is it a sleeper from the perspective of, hey man, I could use another copy of that thing for the long haul. Rooney, great card, exceptional return rewards. When it works, when it plays, it works. Angel Light has gotten cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. I know not everybody plays the wild format, but man, if you do and you don't have an Angel Light, especially at the 4th level, that card is crazy. It's got heal, it's got the flight's great because of evasiveness, 25% chance to dodge, plus you're not going to get earthquaked if there's earthquake rule set, but it's got the tank heal, the resurrect, the inspire, and so it actually supports that white team so well. Cursed Slime Ball. See, that's the other part of that. Let's look at Cursed Slime Ball. I don't know if that one might be a bit expensive. I don't know if it is or isn't. But again, this is pivotal to the redemption cheese I mentioned. 676. This is a replicable path, and I talked about this a little bit in the last video. Cursed Slime Ball gets its redemption at like, I think $10 worth of cards. I think of that 15 maybe. So it's not even a huge investment because the redemption starts at level, I don't know, like a reasonably low level. I think you need 100 copies of the Slime Ball if I remember correctly. We'll check. But I think that's probably, I think we might be looking at some of those for that sleeper. I'm starting to get into a place where these cards aren't necessarily playing as much and their win rates aren't necessarily as high. Venator Kinjo, I bet he's probably a bit expensive, but let's have a peek because look at that. A 606 win, and the low mana makes it versatile. Vruz 18 and 3. I mean, Vruz is not cheap exactly, but I'm saying that's, if you don't have a Vruz, you should. Phantom Soldier, such a good card. I don't think it's going to be too expensive to be quote unquote sleeper though. Oh, the Crustacean King. Look at that win record, man. If you don't have a Crustacean King, it's not a cheap card, I don't think. But man, it's so good that if you play in the wild, not having it is a gigantic mistake. Look at my Demon Shark record. Underwhelming. Really underwhelming. Albatross. And that's an untamed card, which means it's currently in the modern. Albatross. How much are you? You'd have, for this one though, you'd have to be playing at the higher levels because it doesn't get the tank heal until I think Diamond. And so my point would be that one of the main reasons you'd ever want to have it would be that heal. If you don't get the heal, I suspect the success of the card is diminished. Okay, I'm gonna leave it maybe there. That's a good list of cards. I might have 15 cards there. Axe Master's amazing. It's not cheap, I don't think. Any other? Just quickly, one more. I feel like I should find one more. Look at the Wood Nymph with a 15 and 7 record. I'm hoping to find a modern card that wins a lot, that I know is not too expensive, or I might be surprised at how inexpensive it is. Okay, no, we're getting to a place of too much niche, play. These cards are played too infrequently to justify like a deep dive. But quickly, summoners. Let's see if there are any summoners that are kind of in the lower tiers here. I still think Thaddeus is in this conversation. That win record's amazing, but I already talked about that one. Is one of the best cards in the game that if you don't have, you need to have for the price point, for its utility, for how often it's played. So I won't revisit that one in this context, even though it could be. It really could be, because it's like 70 cents a BCX. It's exceptional, and so yeah, it's probably the number 2 card from the rare summoners from that release. Astral Entity also I previously covered, but man, this is almost by definition like sleeper. Like what's going on here? This thing, when it plays, it wins a crazy amount. 19 and 10, but I already talked about it. I feel like summoners are it's harder to be quote unquote sleeping on summoners because there are fewer of them. So maybe there aren't any summoners in this list. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then let's I'll turn on my camera again. And I'm going to go over to Peak Monsters. Testing. Okay, we're good. I'm going to take a second to answer this question here. Paul goes, can Splintercoach get data from all the battles that are played by everyone, or just the account you choose? Paul, it's actually on the account that you give permissions to track. And so they will collect your personalized battle history, and then they'll use it to give you this curated data experience. And so the data I'm sharing with you right now is from my main account and how many times I win or lose with these respective cards and these monsters and summoners. And you might say, okay, but I wish I had the generalized data that shows me the fullness of what the card can do. Splintercoach is not that. There are other tools that I've heard about that kind of more do that. But the interesting thing that this can do that those generalized data, that anonymized data can't produce, is it can show you what you're doing right or wrong. Like, for instance, I started by losing with Kelia. My record was terrible. Now it's gotten quite strong and I played a lot. Yasik, the same thing. I recognized certain cards I was playing or that I wasn't playing, and it helped me win more with those both. And then more recently, Wizard of Eastwood was like look at this record, 8. You can't see it because it's behind my picture, but 8 and 25. So the anonymized data is interesting, and you're right, I'd love to know more of that too. But no, this is a personalized data experience that's actually going to help you see what you're doing right and wrong, and not just overall, but like you can look in different mana caps at the 12 and 29. Oops. You can see data specific to every mana cap, and again, Thaddeus Brood crushing it at the lowest level. Kelia, good big contributor. And this might even be another way to look at the sleeper too. Like if we went back to monsters and we looked at we go mana cap. We look at 12 to 19. These are the monsters that crush in that 12 to 19 mana cap. No, they're not. It can't be. Archimus. think there was just a glitch. No, I think it is. Response not successful, receive status code. Okay, so I'll talk to Jamie about that one. But yeah, coming back in here another time and looking at the specific mana cap for the monsters and looking at which cards have a huge win rate within that context could be really helpful for helping identify more sleepers. But let's go over to peak monsters now. And I just want to, of those cards, I'm going to read them to you guys. What do you guys think is going to prove, are any of these going to be what you would call inexpensive? Goblin Psychic, Pellicor Bandit, Chaos Agent, Shadowy Presence, Mycelic Slipspawn, Spirit Miner, Venari Crystalsmith, Undead Priest, Naga Assassin, Angel of Light, Cursed Slimeball, Venator Kinjo, Vruz, Crustacean King, and Albatross. It's 15 different cards. I happen to know some of them are dirt cheap, but I feel like from a sleeper context, I almost want to pull down the cards a little. Like Pellicor Bandit is in some sense a sleeper because it is so inexpensive. $4 for a max copy of this thing, and it's an amazing card, but you already have that card. You must. It's just too good. If someone's watching this and they don't, it's too good. The data actually from Splintercoach was below 500, but man, $4 for this amazing, fast, evasive, 4 damage output sneak monster at the highest levels. Such a good card. I'm gonna remove it from my list though because it's just so common. And I think because it's so common, one, you probably have it, and two, if you don't have it, it wouldn't be one where I'd want to pile up for investment purposes, because there's other assets in the game that would be more interesting in my mind. Not to say that this won't appreciate, I think it will, but I'm going to remove it from my sleeper list because I think those two considerations change whether I would call it a sleeper. The Goblin Psychic might be in the same realm, but just quickly, what's the price on this guy? Are they giving it away right now? Because this card does win a lot. Where'd it go? What? Oh, it's not a reward. It's Chaos Agent. Let's go Magic specifically. See, look, it's the cheapest Magic card on the green team. And that's great because it partners well with the Summoner, the Obsidian. 8 cents per BCX, meaning you need to spend... Well, do you need to spend a max copy? A max copy is going to cost you 27 bucks. Look at this, 20 bucks for a level 9. That the only thing that you're losing in that context is the Dispel. And I think Dispel is worth the extra 7 bucks. But man, great card. This might be on the list of sleeper because it wins a lot. It partners so well with the team that's coming out of that Obsidian. It's a modern card, which means it's going to be more applicable to more players because it's playable in either modern or wild. And then it's just a great card and it's the right price. So Goblin Psychic, I think, is probably on the list, but I'm going to just note 20. I'm going to call it 20 bucks because I'm saying, like, really you'd want at least level 9. And you know, but even if you're in gold, that getting it at that silence level is going to be so key because now, oh man, the partnerships with Immortalis and with Obsidian, great card. This might be in there, but Chaos Agent, boom, Chaos Agent. We're talking 8 cents, similar price point. Similar price point as the other one. So we're talking 30 bucks for a max copy. I do think you probably want this card at the highest levels. So if this is coming into your kit and if you're considering this as part of is it a sleeper? I think it's not the card you want unless you play at Diamond or Champ, in which instance you start to see dodge, phase, and backfire. You get the 4 speed out of the kit. And then there's more monsters that can contribute to its evasiveness by adding more swiftness and blind, etc. So this card really starts to fall into its place at the highest levels. I'm not sure I really love it at the lower levels. Just too few hit points. I mean, even if it is evasive with 2 hit points, it's probably going to get hit once and die. But then you get it up here with 4 hit points and it suddenly be more resilient, and it'll dodge some and maybe it gets it once and then healed up. And so this card might be on my list, but it's more than the first card I just mentioned, 30 bucks, because I think you need it at the highest level. And then it's possibly more niche. because it really is, you need it at the highest level, as opposed to Goblin Psychic. I would argue it's excellent at gold and diamond and champ. And maybe it's even, you know, good and strong at those lower levels. So that's a maybe, but I feel like it's not going to make the cut. Shadowy Presence, I talked about this one in the prior video, but let's see what the price point is. So we're $138. You know, we're talking, like, the beauty of this thing is that for 1 mana, you're getting a tank, because the Strengthen comes in giving you an extra hit point, which turns 4 into 5, even at 10 BCX. You'd be talking 14, 15 bucks to get a level 3, but you know, the power and almost, you know, and brokenness happens when you get into that high level. So if you're a diamond champion player, this again could be in the consideration, because we're only talking 60 bucks, $69 if you're a diamond champ. But I'm not going to put it on my sleeper list, because sleepers, I'm going to say, like, it feels like if you need to play it at the highest level, I don't know. I don't think that, and plus it's only a wild card, so it feels too niche for it to be technically what I would consider a sleeper. I'm going to move on. Although it's an excellent card. So good. Missilic Slip Spawn. Everyone and their dog knows how good this card is. So that means that I'm not going to probably classify this thing in that context. But the Slip Spawn is very affordable for what it is. You know, that's, I think you... What are the key breakpoints here? Do you need to have a max copy with that slow? Slow is great, but I would argue no, you don't need it. Slow is speed manipulation is so important to victory in this thing. But if you can get the taunt and the force field, I think this thing is in its zone. So I feel like this card is definitely so amazing and desirable, even in that silver range with that force field. So this is a card I would technically feel could fall into this category, except that everyone talks about how effective it is. But it is amazing. So I don't want to give it a sleeper, you know, title. But if you don't have it, why not? This card's amazing. This card's amazing. It's one of the best cards out of Chaos Legion, in my opinion. The way it fits with its team, the breathing room that taunt allows, the force field helps keep its resiliency. There's so many triages on this team, so you can put the force field in the back. It protects you from sneak. It protects you from an opportunity. It protects you from, you know, it lets you funnel your opponent. Man, it's an amazing card. You know that, but I'm not going to keep it in a sleeper conversation. But man, even the price point for that card is reasonable. Again, in that, look at this, $15 for this amazing card maxed out. $15. It is a sleeper in the sense of how great it is, how often it wins, and yet how cheap it is. But again, you know, it's been heralded and celebrated too much, so I don't want to include it on this list. But almost a bad reason to exclude it, because man, it is good. Okay. What other cards did I have here? Spirit Miner. This one I'm a little reluctant, because it's that old card, which means it's only wild, but the price point has really come down. And look, you get swift and dodge. You get dodge and swiftness. I think you'd really want it at the gold or higher. But 153, no. It's an excellent card, but no. It really is an excellent card. If you're a competitor in this game at the highest levels and you play in wild, you want to take this card seriously, but no, it's not gonna get any serious consideration on this list for me. The Crystal Smith, I think this is probably going to be on. This has got to be in the conversation, I think. The Crystal Smith it's practically free. First of all, yes, there's a lot of copies. There's a lot of copies. It's practically free though, man. Like, this is $4 for this amazing card. Why is it amazing? Tank heal, obviously important at the lowest levels to the highest levels. As I said earlier, for a variety of reasons, Dispel's gotten more important with Enrage being more prevalent. There's rule sets with Enrage. There's summoners with Enrage. There's swiftness and slows and I guess the slow wouldn't matter. but the spell has gotten more important. So this card's exceptional, and it's so inexpensive. I mean, I would argue it's good at every level too. That's the other thing. But for $4 to get a max copy, it's probably it's almost the only thing that keeps me away from like a definitive yes, this is a sleeper, is that it's just there's so many copies of it. But it is absolutely amazing, and I think it might be one of those cards that one day we say to ourselves, why didn't I buy more of those? It's so good. It does so many things. It even has that archery partnership with General Sloan, and I know General Sloan could maybe be in the conversation because of how inexpensive he is. But yeah, no, it's a strong maybe. Let's carry on. Undead Priest, not exactly cheap. We are talking 125 bucks. But again, you don't need it there. One BCX begins the conversation for that redemption cheese I talked about. One BCX, $1.15. And the what did I call it? The redemption cheese is a viable play. So actually, I really feel this has got to be in the conversation. I'm saying, you know, if you were to spend even, I would call it like 21 BCX to get that slow. If you get just to this the level 5. Level 5 is going to give you the slow. It's got end the weekend. Or maybe you even get 11 BCX, because then you get 4 hit points, and this thing is less likely to die easily with the 4 instead of the 3. The slow is maybe even less important. I don't know. But guys, if you don't currently have the black team that's capable of doing the redemption play, and you play in wild, you need this card. You need at least 1 BCX. And this is probably, yeah, no, it is definitely one of the ones I want to call a sleeper. Because I mean, even if you go for the slow, you're talking, call it 25 bucks. So it's like $1 for 1 BCX or $25 for a level 5. And then you get that slow in the weekend. It wins so often. Okay, not moving on. Naga Assassin, I think probably this one has to be in the conversation too. Reward card though, another conversation about how it's probably, you know, there's so many copies, but I think at one point in the future, the land and etc., the player base growth will mean that these cards there's not enough of them at some point. And yet this thing wins and wins and wins, and it's super cheap. 3 cents per BCX, 3.5. And the backfire with the swiftness is so powerful, and this card wins a lot too. It was on the lower end of like, there it is, 27 wins and 13 losses. That's a lot of play actually. 40 battles. It's not played in every game, like 100, 200, 300, 250 games was my most played card. So contextually, like 40 games is like more niche, but definitely when it fits in, it's obviously contributing in a big way. And you know, you're talking $3 or $4. I would argue really this is optimal at the highest levels though. If you are playing in a lower league level, I'm going to say I'm going to remove it from my list, but it's only being removed from my list because 1, I'm only going to say 5 sleepers, and 2, actually 3 reasons. 1, I'm only going to have 5 sleepers, and therefore like good cards are going to fall off the list. 2, there's a lot of copies of this thing. And then 3, for it to really be optimized, it needs to be played in that diamond or champion league level. That's not going to be everybody, and therefore it falls off the list. Angel Light, I think I know already it's probably too expensive, but it's such a good card I wanted to mention it. Yeah, you know, you're $30 a BCX, you know, you're talking $300. Look at that. $300 for max, or $135 for level 2. Level 3, I mean, is actually really pivotal. Level 4 is so awesome, but level 3 is really powerful. Tank heal, resurrect, flying. But no, it's not going to make the cut. It's a wild card. Not everybody likes to play wild. It's quite expensive, but man, it's so exceptional. Going back to the redemption play, the slime ball, it gets the redemption at 100 BCX, which is gold league. Yes. Silver goes to level 5, I think. So I think this is gold league. So you'd need to have 100 BCX of this thing, and 100 BCX bulk buy is only $16. I think everybody needs to have this play. If you have a death deck that is part of your conversation, part of how you win, this wins regularly and like so often. 2/3 of the games it plays, more than 2/3 of the games. Not just the Cursed Slime Ball. I mean, this actual play. It includes the Cursed Slime Ball. It includes things like the Dr. Blight. It includes the Undead Priest that we mentioned a few minutes ago. It sometimes includes the Shadowy Presence. So begin to build that for yourself, because you can build it for inexpensive, especially if you're in the wild. Venator Kinjo. Kinjo, where are you? Kinjo, $2, talking 22-ish. Wow, that's actually really cheap. You're a reward card, hey? I mean, there's quite a few copies of it. There, there's about 10 times more copies of this card than there are of like those promo cards, for instance. Yeah, there's a lot of copies, but man, 2 mana makes this thing fit in a lot of contexts. The Reflection Shield has become so important in recent seasons. The camouflage is you definitely enjoy that, especially since you're getting Amplify and Slow out of this thing. And the immunity is great too, because you're not going to die in those poison rule sets, which happen seemingly all the time. I think Kinjo might be on the list. You're talking 20. I would say that the one reason it shouldn't be on the list is that you probably really want this card at the level 4, which means if you're not even playing at Diamond or Champ, you're not going to care about a Diamond level quote unquote sleeper. But it's good enough. It needs to be in the final conversation. We got 3 more cards I want to look at, and then I'm going to give my final thoughts. The next one is Ruz. And Ruz is not exactly cheap, I don't think. 40 cents a BCX and you need 400 of them. I would call that expensive. But man, that card's good. So I'm going to exclude it strictly because of the cost. But if I want to make one argument for why, if you don't already own it, you should, even if you're playing at lower levels. Getting it to 60 BCX with that Martyr is not as expensive as you might think. $23, and you're going to get that Martyr, and that's going to be placed in a certain way strategically. It's going to change. It's going to change, and maybe even transform your success within Splinterlands. And I don't know if I can quickly. Yeah, I can look it up this way. Dragon. Where's my Vruz? Vruz, there is 18 and 13. So it is quite niche, but that's a very strong win record. So when it plays, it adds a lot. And again, for $20, you can get that 60 BCX that you would need. So it's not going to be on my list because it is too expensive. 40 cents per BCX is just a bit too high to be on a sleeper list. Crustacean King is going to be the same thing, I bet. But man, is this card good. If you play in the wild and you don't have this, I would argue you need to have this at level 6. And every level you get above it is great. You start to get more resilient with more hit points, more damage output. When I fight somebody who has a Crustacean King who has 2 damage output, it's such a challenge because it's one more contributor to what he's doing. It's so annoying. It's so frustrating. And it sometimes is the decision between victory and loss. But for 52 BCX, which is still not cheap exactly, you're talking, $100 or something, go 52. And $80, you could buy it for $80 today. One of you could anyways. If you tried that soon, you wouldn't be able to because there's not so many cards on here. But man, this card, if you play in Wild, it's exceptional. The win rate, again, I'll show you quickly, but it was one of the better win rates on the blue team. Where is it? Crustacean, there he is. Crustacean King, 20 and 7. So 741. When it plays, it wins, man. Does it play every game? No. But when it plays, it wins. And so we'll remove that one from the list. And we'll look at Albatross before we give our final remarks here. Albatross. There he is, untamed, so it's still in the Modern League for now. Not for long, but it is currently. The price point, 26 cents per BCX, is certainly not cheap. Well, see, you get the tank at 100. So actually, the tank heal is far lower than I thought. So now, I think this could be in the conversation. Now, it's not cheap, but you know, 100 BCX is 26 bucks, I think, if I'm doing my math in my head correctly. Yeah, I think it's, let's do it this way. Bulk buy 100. 30 bucks. Man, that is a strong maybe. For 1 mana to get a tank heal, to get a flying unit, an earthquake happens enough that you get annoyed by it. I know it does. It annoys me. And 1 more naturally flying monster. A 1 mana flying monster. A 1 mana flying monster with a tank heal. I mean, that's important. If blue is part of your team build, this card at 100 mana, whether you're modern or wild too, is so important. It's not even that much money considering what it is. 30 bucks for a level that's going to give you a tank heal, for another tank healer, to help support your Kraken, to help support against those earthquake rule sets, to help support, you know, it fits so many niches. It's even one more distraction from an opportunity monster, right? Because it's got that, it's that low mana cost, potentially contributing monster that's going to support whatever you're doing. Plus it's a 1 mana meat shield. Not much of a meat shield, mind you, but with your armor that you're probably throwing on there from Kelia, right? It's like potentially, you know, 2 hits anyways. And if it's not being opportunity struck or taken down by that sort of play, then it's going to quietly allow that tank heal. It's probably in my list here. Let's have a final look at what these guys are, and let's see. So Goblin Psychic at the levels that I would want was about 20 bucks. Chaos Agent, 30 bucks. The Chaos Agent I felt needed to be played at the highest levels, and I feel like if we're talking sleepers, it doesn't come into that sleeper conversation. But you do have to have it if you play at the highest levels. So that's probably I'm thinking yes on Goblin Psychic. I'm thinking maybe no on Chaos Agent. Not that it's a bad card, it's an exceptional card. Crystal Smith at $4 is dirt cheap, and it does so much, and it partners so well with what the white team already does. It has great damage output at 3 at the highest levels. It works at the lowest levels with the tank heal. It does so much for so little cost. It almost has to be on here, but it could fall off because of how many copies there are. The Undead Priest for the $1 BCX weekend is so has to be on this list. Because that redemption play, it wins. You know, when you have a 12 mana match with the Thaddeus in play, it wins if you're playing wild. So, and then Slime Ball has to fall in there too. 16 bucks for the redemption. Kinjo I think has to go in there too because of the kit that it offers, the immunity, the amplify damage. So often that's become really pivotal. The reflection shield in the right placement can just destroy, you know, your opponent's blast damage. And with blast damage being one of the new rules, right, there just ends up being situations where you need to have more reflection shield. So the only hesitation on Kinjo is probably you need to have him for his maximum functionality. You're talking Diamond League play. So if you're in that lower leagues, I'm going to say he's maybe a no. But Albatross, yes. Curse Slime Ball, yes. Undead Priest, yes. That's 3 cards. Goblin Psychic, yes. That's 4 cards. And then it's either between the Crystal Smith or the Kinjo. If you play at lower league levels, I'm saying Venari Crystal Smith with the tank heal, must have, sleeper card. So inexpensive, does so much. You probably already have it. So then it's a question around like, would you want to have another one just for investment perspectives? And you might decide no because you think there's too many copies. Okay, I think Kinjo is an amazing steal at 22 bucks for a max copy. The kit that it offers, so it's kind of 6 cards actually, but to me those are the cards that are the biggest sleepers. Data-based analysis from Splintercoach that I think are their prices for what they do at those important levels and those important breakpoints. Are so key. Goblin Psychic, remove the Chaos Agent. Goblin Psychic, Undead Priest, Curse Slime Ball, Albatross, in that order, and one more, either the Venari Crystal Smith or the Venator Kinjo, depending on what league level you play at and whether you prefer, you know, that Reflection Shield support monster with the Kinjo or the white team tank heal with the Crystal Smith. Such amazing cards, and they do so much for so little. I have to go here pretty quick, guys, but I want to see if you guys have any thoughts on that one. Oh, Paul with the great comment. 1 BCX of the Halfling Alchemist. Yeah, that's a great... how's my Alchemist doing? Where's my Alchemist at? There he is. Halfling Alchemist, 13 wins and 7 losses. So when it, you're right, when it plays, it wins. Where does it get that, the key halfling? The breakpoints that are important here. So it gets the halving right at number 1. So 1 BCX. Now you have to pay $19 for 1 BCX. Wow. Guys, I remember when this card came out and I got like 40 copies of it. I think I still have, I think I have one, I think I have 2 copies at level 4 and I might have sold the other copies. I don't remember exactly, but yes, good call. Good call. Now, this is older, right? This has got the Untamed Shield card, so it actually is still in play right now. That's an interesting consideration. That's like a bonus one right there. I love that, Paul. Good shout out. You know, I would be loath to spend 20 bucks on 1 BCX. But if you could get $8.80 for 1 BCX through a bid, now you're talking. And if you could somehow pull in 11 copies of this thing with the redemption for a reasonable price. Now these are not reasonable, but if you could, I use this card also in that same play I talked about with the redemption cheese, because this is another redemption. I'll put them as Cursed Slimeball in the first position, the Halfling Alchemist in the second. If my Slimeball doesn't die right away, then my Alchemist might fire. Even if he doesn't, it doesn't really matter because he's just there for another redemption. So this card is exceptional for a lot of reasons. It wins a lot. It is far more expensive, but he's right. You only need 1. I love that. Good shout out. Okay. Any other comments in there? Paul, I play Chain Golem and Halfling Alchemist all the time. Never see anyone else play it. Chain Golem is another one too, but there's not only 4,600 copies of Chain Golem. I've never owned Chain Golem, I don't think. It's one of the cards that I've never owned. Not cheap. Great card though. This is like a tank of all tanks. What it does, the shield, the void, the piercing, the stun. It's like a tank's tank with the armor and the hit points. It's resilient with the shield and the void. It does a good amount of damage with the piercing and the stun. It's got enough hit points and the armor. So the combination, like it's resilient against archery, melee, magic, and yet it does a good amount of damage. Yeah, great card. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I got to run a few chores before I go pick up the kids. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Apologies for, I guess, missing last week, but like I said at the beginning, tons of things going on. Some of it concerning and scary, some of it exciting and new, and even the scary stuff with the pooch, you know, seems to be working out. She seems healthy and happy now. Thank you for your concern around that. I hope you guys have an awesome day. God bless. Bye for now.